Missouri introduced new gun laws this year that may unknowingly impact citizens. And here from Jimerson Law Firm is Attorney Herman Jimerson. Welcome, Herman.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for inviting me here. It's an honor.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor to have you. And so
Yes.
you are a practicing attorney. You've been practicing in St. Louis for over 30 years.
Yes.
Long time. I mean, I just like to say that because that's a lot of experience. You've seen a lot of cases come and go and a lot of laws.
I've seen a lot,
Yeah.
for sure.
So, and you're always up to date on the latest because it impacts your clients and impacts our community.
You have to have a responsibility toward your clients to know the recent changes in laws and how they in fact impact the community. But more importantly, I think a lawyer has a sense of duty. If he's going to represent someone, he or she needs to make sure that they're getting the best representation possible.
So to that end, there's some new gun laws here in the state of Missouri, in St. Louis. Tell us about what's going on out there.
Very interesting. Effective January 1st of this year, 2017, the state of Missouri legislature saw fit to pass a permitless concealed gun law, which in fact allows...
Permitless, so you don't have to have a permit to carry a concealed weapon?
Yeah, and that's a great distinction because in the past you would have to go through the sheriff's departments and get clearance, and they would check background to see whether this person had mental issues. They would check to see whether or not he's been arrested for a certain type of crime, and those things would kind of suspend or delay the person getting a permit. Now, since the effectuation of the law, guess what? None of that's required. You know, if you're over a certain age, you can carry a gun concealed.
Okay, so what is the age?
The age is 18.
18. So that's still pretty young. So anyone 18 and over can go and just buy a gun and carry it.
And carry it, yes.
Without having to get what they had to do last year, go through the process of getting a permit and getting registered and all that.
Exactly. It's even more dangerous than that. That simply means, too, that a student who's 18 can carry a gun. And unfortunately, those guns, as we know, can cause great damage in school areas, okay? And particularly with how lack of maturity at that point, you know, it's just a dangerous situation.
So you're not in favor of this law?
No, I'm not. You know, I think the law, particularly, it has, and I'm all for a person's rights to have a gun, you know, not a Second Amendment opponent to it. But I also think that we need to use responsible behaviors in saying when a person can carry a gun and how a person can carry a gun. One of the reasons we had the sheriff departments around Missouri to check is to make sure that there was no issues of impairments or insanity or maybe a criminal background that would give us safety. We don't have that now. More, in addition to that, I'm really concerned about the community, particularly the urban areas where you have impoverished, economic issues. Okay, those things tend to bring about more crime, and if you're having a gun, have access to a gun that you maybe took it off somebody who was carrying it or something, guess what? You're going to have more chance for violence. The other impact that I see is that it now gives the police departments a reason to believe that everyone, particularly young black males or young black people out there, have a gun. And I think the chance for violence or chances for more deadly events like we've seen in Ferguson, across the country, on and on, is probably more likely to occur.
Okay. So what can we as citizens here in St. Louis do in light of this big change? Is there anything that we can or should be doing?
Always. We should be contacting our political leaders to say that this is not what we want. St. Louis had a big pushback against it, but I don't think it was very effective. The outstate areas, particularly near Jeff City and other places, basically overrode the city's request. But I think we're seeing a trend in just conservative trend in terms of how we view guns and all that. I just think we just need to push and say this is dangerous for our children, particularly. And get this, you know, a high school kid can carry a gun into his school.
But if the school says you can't bring a gun in, that rule supersedes the law of conceal and carry. Am I right?
Sure, as well as the restaurants and store places that say if you cannot do that, okay? But
it happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
Okay, and at what point can you pick your gun up again? Okay, when you walk out the restaurant or when you walk out. So the point is basically it's not necessarily putting the burden on the shop owners or the store owners or the mall owners to to police ourselves to protect our citizens. I believe the state of Missouri has an obligation to protect us. And the failure to do that it's going to cause a lot of trouble, particularly in, again, these urban areas where a kid can be holding up a telephone and someone perceives that as a gun.
Right.
And use that as a justifiable reason to issue deadly force against that person. I think that's a horrible situation. The other point I wanted to make was this law, as crazy as it may sound, it goes even crazier. This high school kid who may have a gun, who can carry a gun, but say the person coming back from a military leave cannot have that gun for some reason. He's got to go through the process. And it doesn't make sense. So I think the Jefferson City needs to take a look at it. His Honor, Governor Greider needs to take a look at it, even though there seems to be gun proponents, but it needs further tailoring to fit the needs and the safety of the citizen.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, you're making my heart palpitate a little bit. So we're going to have more with Herman Jimerson after this. Lots of really good information. Stay with us.